What's up everyone, Frittz here again with another episode of Sneakerhead Ambition, and today I'm going to be doing a basic episode that is more for beginners and those that are trying to get into sneaker botting, basically sneaker botting 101. I haven't done one of these videos in a while that was tailored towards people that are, like I said, starting out and really know nothing about sneaker botting, so I figured I would update one and do a more recent take on this situation. And you know, it's heading into summer, a lot of younger people have more free time, so I figured it'd be a good opportunity to just do this. So I'll be going over, just the basics, like I said, of sneaker botting, and mostly covering definitions of things that I kind of struggle to understand and trying to explain in a easily digestible format. As I mentioned, if you are, pretty seasoned in how to run a bot and you've been doing this for a while, I don't know that there's going to be that much in this video that's, jaw-dropping or really, groundbreaking for you to hear. So this really is focused on people who are trying to get into this and just have, know nothing about sneaker botting. They don't know what proxies are, servers are, never use Discord. But just, I think one of the bigger things that people have to overcome when they get into this is just all of the verbiage, right? People have heard of servers, heard of proxies, but they don't really know what they are. So I'm going to try to break those things down so that if you've never heard of any of these, hopefully you have a working definition when you come out of this. So the first thing I'm going to cover is bots, right? Obviously, when you get into botting, you need to get a sneaker bot. Now, one of the misconceptions that I had coming into this was that, if you get an AIO bot or the best bot, that it kind of just works on all sites. I will go into that a little more in depth later on in the video, but just know that, right? Like, just because you get a bot doesn't mean that you can even run on more than one site. I would break down bots into a couple different categories, right? You've kind of got sneakers bots. There are a couple bots that are just focused on sneakers. That's a different animal in and of itself. You've got AIO bots, which have modules for a lot of different sites. You've got raffle bots, right? Because some sites are running more so a raffle than a first come, first serve opportunity to get pairs. And then you've got specialty bots that really only work on a couple obscure sites, right? So just know that when you're buying a bot, just because you have a sneakers bot doesn't mean you can just run it on any website that's releasing a shoe. And another thing on bots that I just want to make clear, and I think would have been really helpful for me when I started off, is that when you're buying a bot, right, you are buying a fluid piece of software. All right, what do I mean by that? The bot is only as good as the dev or the developers on the other side of it who are coding that bot. Now, there have been a lot of instances, right, where a bot performs really well on a site for a couple months and then more or less disappears, right? Because if the developers on the back end of it aren't constantly updating, right, the code and how it goes about doing, through its checkout flow, the bot won't work. So just because you buy a bot that is the top performer or a good performer on a site does not mean that the bot will work the next day on it, right? Now, you can look at a bot's history and see how long it's been around, talk to people that know the space and know the devs and how effective it's been. But you need to know that, right? Like, you could buy a bot, and if the developers have been at it for a couple years and they're like, I'm going to move on to other things, the bot is going to die. Now, this video is coming out summer of 2023. There have been a lot of bots lately that have gone under because, people are having financial struggles and it's just not as profitable. So just know that, right? What you're buying isn't some finished product that you can just roll out and use forever. It's something that is constantly updating. If you have a bot, you'll see that they're constantly updating it, right? Version 1.07, 1.08, 1.09. It really is a fluid piece of software that you're getting and that needs to continue to be updated. Like I said, I did not realize that. I thought it was just kind of like, a TV or something that you get, right? It just kind of is what it is, and it's going to be obsolete one day. A bot can continue to be at the, one of the top performers if the developers stay on top of it and continue to update. So just know that, right? When you're buying a bot, you need to make sure that you know what sites it works on and understand that it's constantly being updated. All right, proxies. That is the next thing I'm going to break down. Now, when I, again, got into this, I didn't really know what they were. A proxy is something that you are going to purchase from a company, right? A third party, not from your bot, right? So it's a tool that you're going to use in your bot to hit pairs. Now, it is essentially a list of like unique IP addresses that you will plug into your bot, and it's going to trick the sites into thinking that all of your tasks, right? So let's say that you're running a bot and you're running 10 tasks, right? You can think of that as like 10 windows are up, and each one of those will have a proxy in it that will make the sites think that it's coming from a different IP address, a different place, all right? So again, that's what's going to kind of allow you to trick those sites into thinking that they're getting requests from different houses, different people. All right, now there are definitely different qualities and different types of proxies as well, but that really is what you're getting. Just know again that it's coming from a third party. This is something that you're going to have to purchase from another company, and it's not something that a bot comes with, okay? And that's how you're going to make it look like, if you see somebody hitting 100 pairs and you're like, well, how did that person get these to the same house, right? How did the website not know? It's because it's going to give you a bunch of different IP addresses that you're going to plug in, and that will be different, and you'll be able to, again, trick the bot protection. Now, with proxies, you're really looking at two separate types of proxies, all right? You've got residential proxies and ISP proxies. With residential proxies, right, these are typically a lower quality, right, and a higher volume, right? So you are going to get a little less quality compared to the ISPs, but you're going to be able to have more of them. And this is what I mean. When you are purchasing residential proxies, you are purchasing data, right? So let's say that you purchase 2 gigabytes, 5 gigabytes, 10 gigabytes, okay? You can purchase more than that too, but that's what I'll leave it at now. When you get when you get that data, you go to the site from the company you bought the proxies from, and you can generate 100,000 proxies. Those are all going to be slightly different IP addresses that you can plug into your bot. Now, you can run those, right, until it eats up the data that you purchased. So you can run 10 of them, and if you got 10 gigabytes and ran 10 proxies on a Shopify site, right, that's going to last you months, right, if you're just running 10 tasks, okay? So you're purchasing it by the gigabyte, and you can generate hundreds, thousands of them, whatever you want, right? But once you run out of that data, you've got to purchase another package from them, okay? So you're going to have a higher volume, right? Lesser quality. ISPs are going to be more expensive, and you don't get unlimited IP addresses, right? You're essentially purchasing, let's say 10, 25, 50, 100 ISPs that more or less have unlimited data, right? You can run them on sites, you can run them for farming, which I'll get into later, and you can use them, and they're a higher quality, but they're going to be more expensive, and you can't just generate 100, 1,000 different IP addresses. So you've got a fixed amount with a higher quality. Do not just buy whatever ISPs you want, right? They don't work on every site. So you need to know what your goal is, but those are going to be the two main types, right? So you've got residential proxies and ISP proxies. So that pretty much will cover everything. But just know that, again, depending on what site you are trying to run the sneaker bot on, you might be better off with residentials, you might be better off with ISPs. It really depends on the site. Now, if you were just starting off, your proxy expenses are not going to be a big deal, right? Like I said, if you're just running a couple tasks and you're learning and just trying to get a pair or two to a house off a site, you're not going to spend that much on proxies. You could spend $100 on residentials, and if you, like I said, if you're running a very small setup, just starting off as a beginner, it's going to last you a long time, right? Your proxy expenses are not going to be that much, right? And even if you got 25 ISPs for 50 or so bucks, right? It's not that big of an expense. What I will say is this though, right? This is for beginners, but just to know kind of where you're headed. If you start to run at a scale where you're trying to hit 10, 20, 30 pairs and you're running on multiple sites at once and really, like I said, scaling your setup and really trying to hit a lot, your proxies are going to quickly become the largest expense you have by far, right? Bigger than the bots, bigger than the servers. I remember when Yeezy Supply was still a big thing. I remember spending $500,000 on proxies per drop, right? On daily ISPs along with some residentials. So just know, right, that again, these proxies are not going to be a big expense for you as a beginner, but as you scale up and add multiple bots and are running multiple sites, they really do become a large expense. So just know that, right? You've got the two main types, residential and ISPs, and that really is going to be the main way and main resource that you use to trick these bot protection the bot protection from the sites into believing that all of these requests and cards are coming from unique IP addresses or different houses. All right, next up, I'll be going over servers. Now, again, as a beginner, I would really not recommend getting a server. You just don't need it. Before I started botting sneakers in 2018, I heard the word server in the news, and knew Google sold servers and AWS sold servers, but I didn't really know what it was. I knew it was involved in tech. I knew there were things on servers, but essentially you're buying like another computer, typically a faster computer. But as long as you just have a even relatively recent computer, if you are a beginner and you're just running a small setup, trying to learn, just get your feet wet and hit a pair or two, you don't need a server, all right? You don't need a high-powered computer to run a small setup. Now, as you scale, or if you would like to access your bots from anywhere, you can get a server. Oftentimes, a server is going to be, like I said, just a higher-powered computer as opposed to the computer you have. Now, there are a lot of options, right? Just like a computer, you can pick from a wide range of qualities and just basically strengths of servers, okay? I, at this point, have like 4 or 5 running, all right? Meaning that behind me, right, I can have a separate computer almost up on each screen, therefore not overloading one computer that couldn't maybe run all the bots I'm trying to run. Now, with servers, right, there's a lot of different ways that you can purchase them. There's a lot of different types. The servers that I have, most of them are bare metal servers, which are 24/7. So I pay a company, Hype Proxies, right, a fee or each month, right? And I get that server 24/7 for the month, meaning that I can leave things running on there. The computer never turns off. Even if I X out of the screen behind me, that computer just keeps running. All right, so I basically have a computer that's in a different location, usually Virginia, there's some in New York, but you can have, again, access to that anywhere. You can also, a lot of people do this, just go get an account with Amazon, AWS, and you can do an hourly server. That's how I started off. I didn't always have 24/7 servers, right? I had hourly servers that I would use through Amazon, and again, I would, make one. There are videos on that. I'll probably do an updated video on that at some point in the near future. But you can either get 24/7, which again has its benefits, or you can just pay per hour. You can get some decent servers that'll do you perfectly well for a small setup as a beginner for like a couple cents an hour. So this, again, you don't need one starting off, but it is, just to explain to you all, basically adding more computers that, again, are high powered often to run whatever you're trying to do that your PC can't handle, okay? So just know that, right? A server is basically, again, just a virtual computer that you can access anywhere that's going to be faster, and it's going to allow you to run a bunch of bots that your normal PC likely couldn't handle. And even if you have a high-powered PC, let's say that you can only run 3-4 bots on it, if you get a server, you can run more bots on that. And again, they might be on the same screen behind me, right? I've got a server up top and a server on the bottom. They're different computers, okay? I know some that didn't really make sense to me at first, but just know that's what people are doing when they're having multiple servers. They're having multiple computers that are high powered and able to run all of these bots without interfering with each other or overloading one of them. All right, the next thing I'm going to talk about is Discord. Now, some of you, especially the younger crowd that's watching this, might be like, I know what Discord is, but believe it or not, when I started this in 2018, I had never been on Discord, had no clue what it was, and made a fool of myself on a regular basis on there, all right? If you are not aware what Discord is, and you are, above 30 and, in my age range and trying to do this, it's basically like AIM for, the newer generation. There are a lot of reasons you need to be on Discord. Again, some of you, if you're younger, you're gonna be like, duh, like this is obvious, but that's where you're going to find cook groups, which I'm gonna go over next. That's where you're gonna get restocks and access to a lot of the proxies, the servers, and other things that I'm gonna go over in this video. But Discord is necessary because that's essentially where all of the information transfer and all of the tutorials and all of the coaching, all of that is going to be on Discord. Again, just get familiar with it, right? It took me a while to have a clue what was going on in there. I was talking in the wrong channels, like just being an absolute clown. So just know you've got to know what Discord is. You really can't bot well without it, right? That's how I transfer all the information around, all of the card numbers, all of the setups, all of, just all of the information. You need to be on Discord because that's, again, where all of these companies and groups are providing all of their info. All right, cook groups. Some people, when they ask me about how to get into this that don't have a clue, ask me what a cook group is. It really is kind of your hub or your community for this. Now, there are a lot of reasons to be in a cook group, okay? The biggest reason I would say is that that's where you're going to be around people who are much better than you at this. Like I said, these cook groups are going to be in Discord. You would either get in a free one, get in one for a small fee. I recommend getting in Notify. That is the one I'm affiliated with and is, I think, the best one in the game. But there's a lot of reasons that you should be in a cook group. The big one, like I said, is to just be around people who are better at this than you. I remember for a long time being the dumbest and least talented botter in the cook group I was in. And it was good to be around people who were having success and I could bounce ideas off of, right? Some people are more friendly than others, and I definitely said some dumb stuff that deserved the shots I took from people, but it is what it is. But you want to be around people who are better than you at what you're doing, all right? Get in a cook group. There's going to be people in there that are hitting a lot of pairs. You can hear what they're saying. You can hear the issues they're having. That's definitely a major plus. Second, they offer one-on-one coaching, right? A lot of you are going to need that. I do my best on this channel to kind of provide that for you from my vantage point of what you all need, but everybody has different needs. And a lot of these groups, I would say most of them will offer in there one-on-one coaching where you can share your screen. I can tell you what you're doing wrong. You can, again, bounce ideas directly off of them. That's very helpful. 2, right? Some of them have free ACO, right? So if you get into a group, let's say that you're struggling to hit pairs, if you're in the cook group, right? A lot of them are going to offer ACO where you can give them your card number. The better botters in the group will run that card info and hopefully they can hit pairs for you while you're learning, struggling, and not hitting pairs. All right. The next big one that you should be in a cook group is group buys. When I started off in this, there would be proxy groups, right? Server groups, bots that I couldn't get access to because I was trying to get access to them through Twitter, right? Sometimes companies will do raffles on Twitter. Are you going to win? No. If you're in a good group, right? Like Notify is a great group. There are always group buys in there where if you are in the cook group, you've got to still be on top of it and know when they're restocking, but you're going to have a very good shot at getting access to the best resources you can get. If you're not in a cook group that's not having group buys with these companies, it's going to take you a long time to win a raffle on Twitter or get one of 2 invites that they have, right? So just know that that's a big reason. They also have guides in there. They have monitors. So all of the information that you're going to need to put into your bot, you're not just going to be able to wing it and put whatever you want in there. You're going to need to get that information from somewhere. So if you hear people talking about cook groups, right, they're talking about groups and communities that are on Discord where all of that information that you need to bot effectively is going to be. The next thing that I'm sure y'all know what they are is accounts. Just know that if you are getting into botting, there are a lot of companies and providers that sell accounts, right? They make them, they've got their own way of doing it. You need accounts for certain raffles, you need accounts for certain sites. Accounts get banned, so you need more, but just know, right, that there are account providers. It's not like you bot with 1 or 2 accounts that you have and you've got to hand make them. There are companies, right, that provide those services. There are companies that sell SMS codes, right, phone numbers to use for the accounts that need verified phone numbers. Just know that, right, there are account providers and companies that give you all of that. So you're not running off of 1 or 2 accounts or having to make them all on your own. Just know that there, like I said, if you see somebody that's running 500 accounts on sneakers, right, they likely didn't make them all by hand. There are account providers, again, Sneakers, Flex Raffle, Undefeated Concepts, right? You've got tools to make them, but accounts are definitely a big deal just depending on what sites you're running on. All right, the next thing that I definitely started hearing when I got into sneaker botting that I didn't know what it was, and I know a lot of people that I talk to on Instagram or Twitter that aren't familiar with everything, is called Aycd. Now, this, again, isn't necessary if you're just starting to learn, but the second that you at all get rolling and are maybe trying to hit 5 or 10 pairs or running 2 sites, you're going to need this Aycd toolbox, all right? Now, what is Aycd? It's a toolbox that gives you a bunch of different software applications that allow you to organize and run your bots more effectively. On the organization part, right, every bot that you run is going to have a different file type to transfer your credit card information and your setup, okay? Now, if you're running one credit card, again, you don't need Aycd, because you're just going to manually type that card info into that first bot. But let's say you got a bunch of virtual credit cards. I'm going to cover that next. And you've got 100 credit card numbers and you're trying to put it on 2 bots. Aycd is going to be a tool that you use to put that information in once, and then you can export it in one format for one bot and one format for the other. So you don't have to manually enter 100 credit card numbers into each bot, right? You can manually enter them into Aycd, and it's going to allow you to, export into different file types for different bots. Aycd also allows you to feed CAPTCHA solving from a bunch of different bots. Let's say I'm running a bot like 1, 2, 3. If you're trying to solve CAPTCHAs on all 3 of them on different servers, you're not going to be able to solve them fast enough. Aycd is something that allows you to funnel all of your traffic essentially to one place where it can all get solved. They also have an AI solver where you can solve the, not V3 CAPTCHAs, but the ones you actually have to click, or the H CAPTCHAs where you've got to stretch out the box. It'll do that. Again, if you are trying to scale, this is an essential piece of software. You can't really do botting at scale without this. It also allows you to manage a bunch of your different virtual credit cards from different companies like Privacy, Slash, right, Edge, Amex, Citi, Capital One. It's a very easy way to manage all of that information and data. So again, this is something that you're going to need as you move along, right? But if you ever hear people asking, like, do you have Aycd? It's essentially a hub for all of the information that you're going to be using, and a way to funnel traffic from things to just make it in a central location so that you don't have to be clicking all over the place, all of your bots. It has some other features, but those are the main ones that I'd cover. But just like I said, if you hear Aycd, that's what it is. It's really a piece of software for just organization. Next up are VCCs. Now, one of the things that I didn't necessarily understand when I started, and is actually very easy to get around, is how the hell do people have hundreds, thousands of credit card numbers? Like, I get the rest of it. You're running a bot with proxies and it's tricking the site. Okay. But how do people do this, right? They're applying for all these cards? No, they've got VCCs, which are virtual credit cards, all right? Now, a virtual credit card company is something like Privacy, Edge Banking, Amex, Capital One, Citi, where they allow you to generate a bunch of different credit cards that are virtual, right? They're real credit cards, but they're not physical, that are all tied to one account. So you could have hundreds of cards that are all different card numbers, they're all valid credit cards, but they're all pulling, right, funds from one account or charging to one account. Now, this is huge for 2 reasons, right? One, obviously, you need, like, let's say that your goal one day is to hit 15 pairs, 10 pairs on a site, and you've got one credit card or one checking account. You can't hit 10 pairs on one site because you've only got one credit card number. If you have a virtual credit card or virtual credit card provider, you don't need a bunch of credit cards. You just need one or an account that has all of those cards tied, right? So the big thing, right, is the first big thing is that it allows you to circumvent that issue and have enough cards to hit if you get your setup right. The second and probably larger thing is that it allows you to manipulate the address in a way that tricks the bot protection and, again, get more pairs to one address. You can put any address on the virtual credit card. So just because there's one address tied to your main account, you can put a different address on every card, or you can manipulate the address slightly depending on the site to get more than one pair to the same address. So again, this is something that I think beginners have a hard time envisioning how somebody gets around this, but it really is pretty easy. So like I said, the ones that I would highly recommend are Edge Banking. They're a sponsor of mine. You can check them out in the information section below. And then if you've got an Amex card, an Amex business card, you can generate them. Citi, Capital One, both allow that, right? So if you've got a credit card with any of those last three, you can do that, or you can get an account with Edge Banking, hop on the wait list, and any of those will work really well. But if you hear VCCs, right, that's what the people are talking about, virtual credit cards, and they can be from a variety of different providers, but that's how people get around, having enough credit card numbers to hit 20, 50, 100 pairs. And the last thing that I thought was very, very confusing and definitely took me a while to learn and wrap my head around when I started is just site variability. All right, now what do I mean by that? I mean that, as I mentioned earlier in the video with bots, right, you need a bot that works on a specific site. And there are many different types of sites that you're going to be running on that have different types of bot protection. So just off the top of my head, right, you've got Shopify, you've got sneakers, you've got Foot Locker, Champs and Kids Foot Locker, you've got Finish Line, you've got Dick's Sporting Goods, right, you've got Hibbit, you've got Flex Raffle System, you've got Snipes, right? That's 9 off the top of my head. Every single one of those sites is different. And you need to make sure that your bot has a module to work. So just because a bot works really well on, say, Shopify, I'll give an example. This bot, Chegg, works outstanding on Shopify, crushes it. Doesn't work on anything else, right? Use Sneakers, right? That's not the bot I use for sneakers, but great bot for sneakers. Doesn't work on anything else. There's a lot of examples of that, but just know that every one of those sites has a different module, so not all the bots work, and then they've got different minor differences, right? So one of the differences could be start time, right? Some sites you need to start a half an hour before the drop. Some sites it needs to be 30 to 60 seconds before the drop. A couple other ones like Shopify is somewhere between 10 and 6 minutes before the drop. So just know that when you're starting off, like if you're trying to run a bunch of different sites and you're a legit beginner, this is going to be confusing as hell, right? Like you're not going to know the sites that well. You're not going to get right. It's very confusing. The different sites have different levels of proxies that work, right? Some sites you can't run ISPs on. Some sites, ISPs are by far the best option. It really is, it takes a while to learn all of the little differences between the sites. So just know that that's one of the things that confused me the most, was just learning all of the minor details, right? It was enough to get the bot set up right and all my CAPTCHAs and all my Gmails and make sure that the proxies are authorized, and that's all enough to begin with. But then you throw in the fact that every site is different and you need to have minor different adjustments for each site. Delays are a thing, right? There's a lot going on. So just know that that's a big thing that a lot of people have to learn, is just the minor differences between sites, and that will take you some time to learn. I've got some content on my Instagram about that where I try to break each site down a little more in depth, but just know that there's a large difference, or a wide range of things you're going to have to learn to know each site and be able to pull off multiple sites with multiple bots at the same time. So I hope that was helpful. I did try to touch on everything that you would kind of need to have a general understanding of. Whenever what a bot is, right? The proxies that you put into the bot, the servers that you put the bots on to run and run more efficiently, the cook groups that you get the information from to put into the bots, right? The coaching that you get from the cook group to learn how to do all of that more efficiently, the virtual credit cards that you feed into the bot to be able to hit more than one pair. All of that is, again, if you've been doing this for a while, is pretty simple, but it is a pretty good overview of everything you're going to need. Did I mention everything you need to know to be great at botting? Absolutely not. You need to watch other videos. I would highly recommend watching live cops. If you're trying to learn, I think my stuff is the best to watch. If you're trying to get pumped about making millions, go watch somebody else's highlight reel that can make you think it's going to be easy. it's not, right? I think the live cops that I post are really helpful to beginners because of the fact that I pretty much show everything on my screen and I don't just cut to when I'm hitting. I kind of show when I'm starting things. You hear me talking in the background. I show, right before the drop, how I'm editing delays. I'm showing the time that goes by and what's happening before the checkouts start to come in. It's really a lot to learn. If you have any questions, definitely shoot me a message. I'll try to get back to everybody, but I think this is a solid overview of the verbiage and the wording that you're going to need to know and have a basic understanding of to start hitting pairs, right? Because obviously that's why people are watching this channel for the most part, is to learn. So hopefully this is helpful. Like I said, if you got any questions, definitely shoot them over to me. I have no problem answering questions that, I've asked, right? I've asked a lot of questions where people are like, dude, your answer is in the question. Did you read what you were asking, Frittz? And no, I wouldn't have asked this if I understood. But so I try, I try to put helpful information out there. So let me know if you got any questions. But like I said, I think this is a solid overview of just the basics that you're going to need to do well. Per usual, a massive shout out and thank you to my sponsors. Everything I talked about today in this video, I have resources in the top companies in this space. I have that information down in the information section below. I highly recommend you checking them all out, whether that's proxies, servers, accounts, VCCs, cook groups, right? Where to purchase bots on a Whoop marketplace, right? I have all of that down there. So if you need any of that, definitely check that out. I do always say this. Those are the companies and resources I use personally to hit. I'm not pumping up some stuff that I don't use and don't believe in. So definitely check that out. Like I said, I've got discount codes down there. I've got invites to their Discord. Got website information down there. So per usual, let me know if you got any questions on any of that stuff. I'm always happy to help you all out. But those are the companies and products and services that I recommend. So if you're getting into this and need any of the things I talked about today, that's definitely the place to check that information out. And hopefully you can get into the group, start using the services, or at worst, get on the waiting list. Anyways, that's all for today's video. Like I said, I hope this was helpful to beginners. But I will have this video up before the Yeezy drops. That's gonna be our last round of Yeezy drops ever, apparently. So I think they might go on for the next couple months, but this should be up right before the 31st. So I should have another video in there just going over final details and what everybody should be doing, but definitely check back for that. I'll be posting on my Instagram and Twitter about that. If you need any information. But other than that, like I said, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I do post on those accounts daily. I've been trying to stick to 2 YouTube videos a week over the past couple weeks, months. So that's been going pretty well. But like I said, if you want daily content on what I'm doing and trying to provide information on how you all can learn, definitely check those handles out. I've got them in the information section below. And that's really all for today. So until next time, see ya.